everyone, it's Kogi from creativekogi.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make this square. This is an earlier version, and it probably requires a little bit of blocking to get it to lie perfectly straight. The square was designed for the Friends Around the World 5th Anniversary Cal, and I'm super pleased to be part of it. This particular square is called the Calytrix square. And Calytrix because of the star center. Calytrix is a girl's name of Latin origin meaning star flower. And given that the center looks like a flower, well, there you go. That's why the name. All right then, let's just talk about the yarn. So it calls for a worsted weight yarn. So I'm using 3 colors. This isn't typically in South Africa, well, it's not a worsted weight, but it's sort of an Aran or a sort of chunky weight. But whatever yarn thickness is suitable for a 5mm hook to get the size required. Okay, so you can see that the yarn is quite thick and therefore the hook is a 5mm. Of course, you can vary the size of the square and you can make it to whatever size you want, and then adjust your hook accordingly. You will then not have the same dimensions as in the pattern. All right then, in your written pattern, which is a free download, you will get all the abbreviations and the explanations of the stitches used. We are using US terminology. I've also included some important information with links that you might want to have a look at, just to explain some of the stitches or techniques that we are using in this pattern. And yes, I will show it to you, but the links are there if you need a dedicated video. What I've also done is shown you where to change colors, but it is completely up to you to use as many or as few or even a single color if you wish to do so. I'm starting round 1 with my color A. I prefer to use a slip knot over a magic ring. I just think it's stronger. I worry about a magic ring unraveling. So I'm going to chain 4. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I'm going to slip stitch into that first chain to create my ring. There you go. I think this is much stronger. Now the pattern calls for a beginning DC3 together, so double crochet 3 together cluster, and this is how you do it. You chain 3, and that counts as the first leg of your cluster. Yarn over, insert your hook into the ring, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Leave those 2 on the hook and do that again. Now you will have 3 loops on the hook and yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. You've just created your beginning DC3 together cluster. Now that tail, I'm going to work over it so it's just more secure, and I can also pull that center hole closed tight. So you chain 1 and you work now a double crochet 3 together cluster. So essentially what you're doing is you're working 3 double crochets, but each one is worked sort of halfway, and then you end up with 4 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops. Chain 1, let's do that again. Yarn over, insert into the ring, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And do it again, pull through 2. Do it again, pull through 2. 4 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 4. Now we need to have 6 petals, so we are going to do this 5 proper DC3 together clusters and the 1 beginning DC3 together clusters. Now keep going and I will tell you what to do when we get to the end. It does feel a bit tight trying to get the stitches, but we do want that. We want a very tight center. So keep checking and counting and make sure that you have 6 at the end. Right, you can see that it is quite tight. Now, in that chain 3 leg, you don't actually put into the chain 3, but if you hold the stitch, you'll see where they come together, where you pulled the yarn through all the stitches. slip stitch into that, and that loose yarn, you just pull, give it a little bit of a tug, and you can see that hole closing. Now thread your needle, and then work that yarn away. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Okay, so round 2 requires the same color, so there's no need to fasten off. And what you need to do on round 2 is now slip stitch into that chain 1 space. That is where we're going to start this round. It's our starting point. We're going to chain 1. That chain 1 does not count as a stitch. It's simply giving you the height for your single crochet that's going to come. So we've got 2 single crochets in that chain 1 space. And now you are going to work a front post half double crochet. Now a front post stitch is essentially inserting your hook from the front to the back around the stitches, and you're going to do a front post half double crochet around that cluster like so. Okay, so once you pull up your loop, you work a typical half double crochet. Let's do that again. Okay, yarn over, insert the hook from the front to the back, pull up a loop, and work your half double crochet. There you go. It's quite simple. We want that stitch because it emphasizes the little flower petals. We now work 2 single crochet in the chain 1 space, and now let's work that front post half double crochet around the cluster. Okay, and already you can start seeing that raised effect. So 2 single crochet and a front post half double crochet around the cluster. Can you see that? Can you see that effect that it's creating? It raises the stitches and it emphasizes the stitches. So keep going exactly as stated in the pattern. 2 single crochets in the chain 1 space and a front post half double crochet around the cluster. Now it is a little bit tight in the beginning, but this front post stitch will create that definition and it will sort of separate out those stitches, especially with those single crochets in between. Okay, and just repeat until you get to that beginning chain 1. Now that you've worked your way around, you will now slip stitch not into that chain 1. Remember I said it does not count as a stitch. You will now slip stitch into that first single crochet to close off the loop. What I am going to show you at this point is an invisible join. So you cut off the yarn at an appropriate length, and before you do that slip stitch, so I've just opened that, and at the last stitch I just pull the yarn through. I now take a needle, so I thread my needle, and remember I haven't done that slip stitch. This is just before the slip stitch. This yarn's quite thick for the needle. Okay, now you can see that it's still open and it's not joined in. And if you look at that first single crochet, you simply insert your needle into that stitch, okay, and then back down into that stitch, that last stitch that you had worked. And don't pull too hard, you keep it quite loose, and you can see that it's created a very nice edge, and that is an invisible join. It's fairly simple, so I go back and work my yarn, and then I just then work the yarn away. And it's secure, and it looks neat. It's a very neat edge, and just the only thing to worry about is when you are working your next round, don't work that loop as an additional stitch. Sometimes when you're doing the invisible join, you kind of create an extra little loop. But it is an awesome neat finish. I'm going to cut that away and I'm basically done. All right, we are now ready for color B and round 3. I'm going to start with a standing half double crochet, and I hold it down quite tightly and insert my hook into that first stitch. It's that first stitch after the front post half double crochet from the previous round. So your first single crochet, and then work another half double crochet in that stitch, and now 2 half double crochets in the next stitch. Now here's where it gets quite interesting. That front post half double crochet from the previous round, we are just going to slip stitch into it. So we're just anchoring down that stitch. Okay, now I'm going to work a chain of 20. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. All right, let's move this yarn out the way. Okay, now making sure not to twist it. You know, it's not a train smash if you do, but try and keep it as straight as possible. You're going to work back into that stitch, that same stitch, and you're going to slip stitch. So you've anchored it on that front post half double crochet from the previous round, and you've created a little loop. Now, 2 half double crochets in the next stitch, 2 half double crochets in the next, and now we're going to do this loop thing again. All right, so in that front post half double crochet from the previous round, we are going to slip stitch. There you go. Sorry, my yarn's just in a bit of a mess. Okay, now we're going to chain 20. Now, if you crochet very tightly, I'm going to ask you to try and be as loose as possible. So reduce, if your tension's really tight, try and keep your tension as loose as possible for these chains. It's really important that these chains are exceptionally loose. So now look, we've created 2 loops, and now we continue. So 2 half double crochet in the next, 2 half double crochet in the next, a slip stitch in that front post half double crochet from the previous round. Oh, this yarn. Okay. Now, here you go, slip stitch, going to chain 20, and we're going to slip stitch in exactly that same point. Now I'm going to let you continue. I'm going to put on some music for you, and I will catch you at the end of the round. Last loop. this is the last loop, so we should have 6 chain 20 loops. Let's just finish this. Okay, so just making sure that it's straight, I am going to slip stitch in that beginning loop to secure down that loop, and now I'm going to slip stitch in that standing half double crochet. I urge you to work away your knots. I'm not going to because I want to keep going with this, but yeah, I'm just going to slip stitch in that stitch. So there you go. I'm just going to cut it off and do a little slip knot, which is quite secure, but I'm going to still have to work away my ends when the square is finished. Okay, so there's what you have worked. You have 6 loops, and essentially you have sort of a little flower. Okay, I'm sure you're quite interested now to see what the next round's going to look like and what we are going to do with this loop. All right. Our next round is worked in color A, so I'm bringing color A back, and again I'm starting with a slip knot because I am going to work a standing half double crochet. Now, this is probably the trickiest round, so just sort of pay close attention to the instructions. You are going to join in that first half double crochet. So that first stitch after your chain 20 loop, and you're going to work a standing half double crochet in that stitch. Okay, so after that slip stitches, the first stitch, standing half double crochet, oops, and now you're going to work a half double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. Okay, so that's 1, 2, and 3. Now, that loop that you created, you're now going to hold it to the front of your work. Okay, and you're going to move that loop apart. And in that stitch, you can see that little white bit, that white stitch, which is actually your front post half double crochet from round 2. So in that stitch that you were slipping into, that very same stitch, you are now going to work your stitches in there. So you're working 3 half double crochets in that stitch. So it's sort of between the loops. You're keeping the loop to the front and you're working the 3 half double crochet in between. Now 1 half double crochet in each stitch, each of the next 4 stitches. So that first stitch after the loop, that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let me show you this whole loop thing again. So there's your loop. Hold it to the front of your work. Separate the strands, and that little white stitch that you see there, can you see that? That is where you're going to work your 3 half double crochets. Right, simple enough. Keep watching, keep working along, and I will catch you at the end. the music ends at exactly the right spot. So 3 half double crochets in that space, that stitch between the two strands. And yeah, you now you're going to slip stitch in that beginning stitch. You might have had a beginning chain 2. I've had a standing half double crochet, so you're going to slip stitch in there. Now don't break off the yarn. We're going to continue with color A. And you're probably wondering what's going on with all these loops. There is a method to my madness. All will be revealed soon, and this mess of loops is part of the grand design. Okay, so we are now going to chain 3. This counts as your first double crochet. You are now going to work 1 double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So you go 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so you've got 4 double crochets in total. Now, you're going to skip the next stitch. Okay, so you're going to chain 1 and skip that next stitch. And now we're going to work a double crochet 2 together cluster. Okay, and when you skip that stitch, what you end up with is the center half double crochet from that group of 3 double crochets worked in the previous round. Now, a double crochet 2 together cluster is very similar to the 3 together, except we're just working 2. Okay, let's do that again. Chain 1, yarn over, pull up a loop through 2, pull up a loop through 2, 3 on the hook, and yarn over through all 3. Okay, so we're making a little cluster of sort of 3, a little flower cluster. So you chain 1, you are going to skip a stitch, and you're going to work a double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So that's 2, 3, and 4. You're going to now chain 1, skip a stitch, and in that next stitch, which is that center stitch, you are now going to work a double crochet 2 together cluster. Chain 1, another cluster, chain 1, and your third cluster, chain 1, skip a stitch, and 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. Easy enough? Keep going, and I'll see you at the end of this round. Okay, so you're almost at the very end of that round, and you're working that final group of 3 double crochet 2 together clusters with the chain ones in between. And there's my last one, so chain 1, and you're now going to slip stitch in that beginning chain 3. Okay, so let's just count that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it's there. Oops, yep, that's it. And slip stitch to close it. There we go. I'm going to cut it off, and I'm just doing a slip knot, but I urge you to do an invisible join if you're confident that your stitch count is correct. All right. Round 6, and we bring in color B and start with a slip knot because we are going to work a standing half double crochet. Okay, so where to put the stitch, look at your 4 double crochets from the previous round, and in that first chain space after the double crochet is where you're going to do a standing half double crochet. So keeping that quite tight on your fingers supporting it, work your standing half double crochet in that space. Work another work another half double crochet. So you've got 2. Now you will work a front post half double crochet around the cluster, just like we had done previously, just to emphasize that and sort of make it a little bit sort of just make it rise a little bit. Um, so 2 half double crochet in the chain 1 space, and then front post half double crochet around that cluster, just to emphasize it. Then 2 half double crochets, and now front post half double crochet, and 2 half double crochets. Now, this bit is now going to, it seems like it's a little bit complicated, but it's not. I promise you, it's very simple. What we want to do now is bring the loops back into our work. And it's really quite simple. So you've got those 4 double crochets, okay, from the previous round. Now you are going to work a back post double crochet around 2 of those legs. So you're going to skip the first and you're going to skip the last. And those 2 loops. Now look at that. Let me place it down. So you've got 2 loops, right? You're going to work the inner strands of both of those loops in your first stitch. So you're basically going to bring those loops together. Okay, let's try one. So you're going to skip the first, you're going to work in that center 2, you're going to go there. Those 2 inner legs is what you're going to catch in your stitch. Literally, that's what you're going to do. So it's yarn over, and it's the center 2 DCs, so insert from the back to the front, and now pick up that loop, so catch that loop. So the one strand from the one, the other strand from the other loop, and make sure that you are only going around 2 of those DC legs. There you go. Pull that through, pull, 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 and now work your double crochet. It's not too bad. It's actually, you'll get the hang of it. Let's do at least 2 more and see how you get along. All right. So we've caught those with a little sort of bar stitch, and this is where the design comes in and the little star. Okay, now we're going to work in that chain 1 space, and you now go 2 half double crochet, front post half double crochet around the cluster, 2 half double crochet, front post half double crochet, 2 half double crochet in that space, and then front post half double crochet and 2 half double crochet. That's the easy part. Let's work this back post double crochet now. So we've got those 4 double crochets, right? I just find it easier now to do the stitch if I change the grip. Can you see I've changed the grip on my hook? So skip the first stitch. Now pick up the loop of the one and the loop of the other, and pull through all the way through. You've skipped that first stitch and the last stitch, and you work now your double crochet. Okay, you'll be able to see the pattern forming in just a little while. Right then, so now the next part's easy because we are working 2 half double crochets in the chain space and a front post half double crochet around the cluster. Okay, I'm going a little bit fast here because you know this is a simple repeat. It's what we've done before. Okay, and then we get back here now to the 4. I've changed the grip. Can you see I'm now holding the hook in a knife grip, and I'm going to catch those loops. Okay, so I've got both sort of strands, and I'm going to show you now on the reverse. So I turn it around and you can see, oops, you can see that I work around 2 of those legs of the double crochet, and then I work the back post DC, and so I'm catching the loops and creating my star. Okay, so now we're working in the chain spaces and around the clusters, so it's 2 half double crochet in each chain space and a front post half double crochet around the cluster, and I'm just going to work one more set of loops with you. Right, there we go. Okay, grip, yarn over, through 2, catching your loops, and the other loop, and if you turn over, if you concerned that you're not going through, just turn over and see, do I have 2 stitches? Yes, I do, and I work a back post double crochet. Easy enough? I think so. Keep going. I will have to apologize for the section. I realized that I sort of slipped out of focus of the camera for a little bit, but I think I've explained it, explained what to do. So I'm just going to knock that off now. That completes my round 6 and show you what that looks like. So there you go. How beautiful is that? It's really pretty. I think it's really pretty. It's a beautiful flower and you can clearly see the stars forming. And yes, and that's the whole point of this pattern. So there we go. I'll let you end off your or weave in your yarn and I will start the next round with you. Okay, we are now bringing in our third color and I'm going to start with a slip knot and because I'm working a standing half double crochet as my starting stitch, you are going to join in the back post double crochet from the previous round. Okay, so if you're having trouble locating that stitch, just look at where your loops are joined, where that horizontal bar is, and it's the stitch. It is that back post stitch. Okay, so you're joining with the standing half double crochet, and you are now going to work a half double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, now you are going to skip a stitch and now you're going to work a half double crochet V-stitch. So typically a V-stitch is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch. What we're doing here is we're working a half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet in the stitch. You will see that that stitch that you're working your half double crochet into is your front post half double crochet in around your middle cluster from the previous round. So chain 1 and a half double crochet in the next. Now you're going to skip a stitch and you will work a half double crochet in each of the next 9 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, just getting that out the way, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Alright, skip a stitch, a half double crochet V-stitch in the next stitch, skip a stitch, and work 9 half double crochets. Easy enough? Keep going, and I will see you at the end of the round. As always, the music stops at just the right spot. So you've worked your stitches and you now slip stitch into that beginning stitch. And this is where you should end off. Um, and that is round 7, and I will see you on the next round. Right. How beautiful does this blue look? I like the contrast that it creates. So you now have your 9 half double crochets in between those V stitches. And I ask you to place your marker in the 5th stitch from any V stitch. You don't have to. It's easier to spot it because by the time you get your yarn all sorted around your fingers, you probably have forgotten where that stitch is. And I have now lost that stitch. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's where I'm going to work my first stitch. And it is a beginning DC2 together cluster. So it's like a standing stitch. I'm not, I think by now you understand how standing stitches work. And that's your first stitch. And it's a DC2 together cluster. Now this is again a repeat from what we have done previously. So you're going to work a set of 3 DC2 together clusters. Okay, with chain ones in between. Now you will skip a stitch. And then work 1 DC in each of the next 3 stitches. So it's 1, 2, and 3. Now here is where we pick up that loop again, that chain loop. And this is why I said, please make sure that it is as loose as possible. If it's very tight, your work is not going to lie flat. Okay, so we are now going to work 3 single crochets in that V-stitch from the previous round. But you're going to pick up that loop and work the single crochet stitches over the loop. That's 1, 2, and 3. So now you've secured that loop. Can you see? You creating that pattern, that lovely star pattern. Okay, so you are now going to work a double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. It's 1, 2, and 3. Okay. You are then going to chain 1, skip a stitch, and now work that cluster. So that cluster is 3 double crochet 2 together clusters with chain 1s in between. Okay, I think you more or less know how to do the clusters, so I'm not going to focus too much attention on that, but I want to just work through sort of catching or securing that loop in your V-stitch. Okay, so you're going to skip 1 and then work double crochet in the next 3 stitches, which brings us back to that V-stitch. Okay, now in that V-stitch we are working 3 single crochets, but you're working over the loop of that chain and go 1, 2, and 3. See? And now we're creating a slightly different shape also. Okay, so you will now work 1 double crochet in each of the next 3, and you will chain 1, skip a stitch, and work your group of clusters again. Right, keep going, and I will see you at the end of the round. So let's just pause there. I want to show you this pattern repeat. You've got your 3 clusters that is part of your group of 3 clusters. You've got 3 double crochets and you've got 3 single crochets. So it's easy enough to remember this round. Right then, this brings us to the end of the round, and I'm going to just chain 1 and slip stitch into that beginning cluster there. I'm going to give you a chance to work away your end, and I'll catch you then on the next round. We are now on round 9 and we're bringing in color C again, and our starting stitch or our standing half double crochet will be in the chain 1 space that is just before the cluster. So it's the chain 1 space, and you're going to work your standing half double crochet, and you will work another half double crochet in that space. Now this bit you probably know how to do already. It's going to just be a front post half double crochet around the cluster and 2 half double crochets in that chain 1 space. So it's a simple repetition of something we have done already, and as I said, it's just to emphasize those stitches. Right, now we're going to work a half double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. That's 1, 2, and 3. And now you're going to work a front post double crochet around all 3 of those single crochets worked in the previous round. So around all of them, front post double crochet. And what that does is it just makes sort of a V-tip and emphasizes the point of the star a little bit more, but it also creates a pretty little flower in keeping with our floral theme. So 1 half double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches, and then you are back to your clusters, so 2 half double crochets in the chain spaces and a front post half double crochet around the cluster. See, it's easy enough. 2 half double crochets there, front post half double crochet, 2 half double crochets, front post, and 2 half double crochets. Okay, and how pretty is that? Are you loving it thus far? I hope you are. I hope you are enjoying it. You're going to work a half double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And that front post double crochet around all 3 of those single crochets. Okay, simple enough, and I will see you at the end of this round. And we're at the end of the round, and you will slip stitch into that beginning stitch. In my case, it's a standing half double crochet, and you're basically going to slip stitch in there, and you can fasten off, and I will see you then on the next round. We are now on round 10, and we are using color A, and again I have a slip knot that's already made because I'm going to start with a standing stitch, and this time it is a beginning DC2 together cluster. So we're going to work that stitch in the front post DC from the previous round, so the stitch that was worked around the 3 single crochets. Okay, and essentially you're just anchoring it down with your fingers, and you're working a typical DC2 together cluster. See, very simple. And in that same stitch you're going to chain one and work another cluster, and chain one and work another cluster, so it's all in that stitch. Now you're going to skip a stitch. Yeah, so you can see the pattern being created, the repetition. Okay, so you are now going to skip a stitch and work a half double crochet in the next 2 stitches. And now's where the interesting part comes in. So you're going to work a back post half double crochet around each of the next 11 stitches. Okay, so let's go. Skip a stitch, 1 double crochet in 2, and then a half double crochet, a back post half double crochet around 11. Right, when you've done your 11 back post half double crochets, you now work a half double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. You're going to chain 1, you're going to skip a stitch, and now you're going to work that beautiful cluster, which is worked in that front post double crochet from the previous round. So that's all there is to it. we are at the end of that round, and you will basically then slip stitch into that standing stitch or that beginning cluster stitch. There you have it. And I'm going to hide away some of that yarn tails, but how gorgeous does that look? Are you enjoying it? I hope you are. See you on the next round. Alright then, we are now on round 11, and you're going to start with a little bit of a different stitch. It's a front post half double crochet. It's the same concept, you're just securing it with your fingers and you're working the stitch as normal. You're then going to work 2 half double crochets in the chain 1 space, a front post half double crochet around the cluster, and 2 double crochets in the chain space. 2 half double crochet, sorry. Okay, now you're going to skip that chain space and you're going to skip the next 3 stitches. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and you are now going to work a front post treble. So if you're a little bit confused, it might be worth your while putting in a marker into the stitch that you're going to work through, but we'll count it anyway. So we're now going to work a front post treble. So yarn over the hook twice, and now those double crochet stitches from round 8 is what we're working around. Okay, from round 8, and if we check where we are, you can see that's 11, 10, 9, 8. So we're going to work front post trebles around each of those 3 stitches. Right. Just remember to now just have a quick look and see that you are skipping the 3 stitches because you don't want your stitch count to be off, and now you're going to work a half double crochet in each of the 9 stitches. And it creates that lovely effect. Now what we're going to do is work the front post treble around each of those 3 stitches from round 8. The front post treble around each of those 3 stitches from round 8. 1, 2, 3 there. Okay, and you are now going to skip the next 3 stitches as well as the chain 1 space, and you're going to work a front post half double crochet around the cluster and then work half double crochets in those spaces. So you're only working the half double crochets in the spaces between the clusters. So see, front post half double crochet and you stop. We are not working half double crochet in that space. We're going to skip that space and we're going to skip the next 3 stitches and work front post trebles around those stitches from round 8. Oops, what is that? It's a moth. It's a moth, and the moth has decided it wants to be part of the video, so don't let it distract you. So front post treble around those 3 stitches, And remember to double check that you are skipping the 3 stitches. Perfect. You're now going to work a half double crochet in each of the next 9 stitches. Okay, are you kind of figuring out now the pattern and the sort of reason why we're doing it the way we're doing it? Okay, so there we are now. We are doing the front post treble. Right. Now we're back at our clusters and we're going to skip those stitches and the first chain space. We're going to immediately start with a front post half double crochet, and you're going to put in 2 half double crochets in between the stitches. So remember, when you are putting the half double crochet in this round, it is between the clusters, not on the outside of the clusters. All right, I'm going to let you keep going. I will leave the rest of this video on so that you can check in and you can pause and you can watch again, etc. Okay, so we're at the end and we slip stitch into that beginning stitch or the standing stitch, and that marks the end of round 11. We're now on round 12, and look how nice that looks. Those front post triples are framing those clusters so nicely, and it just yeah, just creates such a nice effect. So we are going to join in the first front post half double crochet that is after those front post trebles. So basically that first cluster, and we are going to join in with a standing single crochet and then work a single crochet in each of the next 6 stitches. Okay. All right. Now you're going to work a front post double crochet around each of the next 3 stitches, which is your front post trebles from the previous round. Okay. Now you're going to back post half double crochet around each of the next 9 stitches. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay. The next step is a front post double crochet around those 3 stitches. That's 1, 2, and 3. And now you're going to work a single crochet in each of the next 7 stitches. Okay, so I'm not going to continue with the entire round. I'm actually going to stop and come back to the end because this video is becoming exceptionally long. But let's just recap quickly. So you're working single crochets, 7 single crochets above the clusters. You're working a front post double crochet around the front post trebles, and then you're working back post half double crochet around those 9 stitches. So we'll continue once more. Front post double crochet around the 3. Okay. Now it's back post half double crochet around 9. Okay. Now you've got front post double crochet around the 3. And now you've got 1 single crochet in each of the next 7 stitches. Keep going and I will see you at the end of this round. Alright, so we're at the end and I hope this was easier for you. So we've got that 3 front post double crochets and you slip stitch into the beginning stitch, and that marks the end of round 12. We are now on round 13 and I'm bringing in color B. So we're going to start in that first front post double crochet after that 9 back post half double crochets. And you're going to chain 4, or you are going to start with a standing treble. Look how tall that stitch is. I'm doing a standing treble. Right, you are now going to work a treble in that same stitch. What we are doing now is taking this somewhat of a circle and turning it into a square. You will work 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 stitches. Right. You then work a half double crochet in each of the next 7 stitches. Now you work a single crochet in each of the next 8 stitches. Right, now we're back to half double crochet in 7 stitches. And now you're going to work double crochet in 5 stitches. And now you will work 2 trebles in the next stitch. Easy? Of course. So you've got 5 double crochets, 7 half double crochets, 8 single crochet, 7 half double crochet, 5 double crochet, and 2 treble. I think that's fairly easy enough and not uncommon to when you are squaring off a circle. I'll see you at the end of this round. Alright, and we are at the end, so slip stitch into that first standing treble that we worked. We are not changing colors, we are keeping the same color. So what we are going to do is chain 3 to count as our first double crochet. We're going to chain 3. We are now going to chain 1 and we are going to work a double crochet in the next stitch. That next stitch is the treble from the previous round. Now similar to before, we are now working double crochet, half double crochet, single crochet, then half double crochet back up. But the numbers are different this time. We're doing 7 double crochet, 5 half double crochet, and 8 single crochet. So this round it's a double crochet in the treble, chain 1 a double crochet in the other treble, and then 7 double crochets, 5 half double crochet, and 8 single crochet. That's it, and I will see you at the end of this round. We're now back to color A and we are on round 15, and you're going to start with a standing half double crochet in that chain 1 space. So our corner is still a half double crochet, chain 1 half double crochet, and what we're doing here is we're just working half a corner because on the next round we're using the same yarn, and I basically want us to start in the same spot. So you're now going to do a back post half double crochet all the way to the end, And when you get to the other corner, you basically work a half double crochet, chain one, half double crochet in that chain one space from the previous round. So this is going to take quite a long time because the rounds are getting bigger. And what I'm going to do is just give you a little bit of music to get to the next corner. And in that corner there, you're going to work your um, half double crochet, chain one, half double crochet. Okay, so we're at the end of round 15. We are basically going to slip stitch into that beginning standing half double crochet. We are not going to fasten off our yarn because we are going to continue to use the same color on round 16. Right, so now we go to round 16. And what I've done there is I've created a little sort of gap. Instead of doing a chain one, I worked a single crochet, which allows me then to start in exactly the same point. If I needed a chain two, for example, I would do a half double crochet instead of the chain two, and it allows me to start at that point. So round 16, we're going to use color A, and we're going to chain two to count as our first stitch. We're going to skip that first stitch. So we're going to skip that first stitch. I'm calling it the first hidden stitch because on the other rounds where you have, not your starting and ending corner, but on the other rounds, you will distinctly see that the stitch is a little bit hidden and you can't actually see it. And I want you to skip that stitch. And essentially this round is just working a half double crochet in each stitch until the corner, and in your corner you are working a half double crochet, chain one, half double crochet. That's all there is to round 16. Right then, we are now on round 17 and we have the last two rounds to go, and we've brought in color C. It's a nice dark color to finish it off. In my chain one space, I'm going to work a half double crochet, chain one, half double crochet. And when you are starting, we usually work just half of that stitch, and we complete that stitch when we come around. And yeah, this is a fairly simple round. You're working a half double crochet, chain one, half double crochet corner, and then the rest of the rounds are just back post half double crochet. And yeah, I'll see you on the next round. All right, so that round is now almost finished. We're working the final few back post half double crochets, and it brings you back to the corner. So remember you worked half a corner, and because it's a half double crochet single, chain one and a half double crochet, we are going to substitute that chain one for a single crochet. So it's just sturdier. Um, it allows me to then start right back in that same space rather than starting away from the space and creating a bit of a mess. Okay, so what we are going to do now is work the final round of the square, and that is round 18. And all we are doing here is we're going chain 2 to count as my first stitch, and 1 half double crochet in the same space, in that same space. Now you're going to skip that first hidden stitch and work a half double crochet in each of the next 38 stitches. Right. So what you need to remember on this round is your corner is now 2 half double crochet, chain 2 half double crochet, and you are skipping that first hidden stitch. And that's it. Let's have a look at what this square looks like when we are all done with it. And just like that, we are over. I do hope you enjoyed making the square. It might need a bit of a light blocking, but this actually would make an awesome blanket. It's the beginning of what could be a larger project. This is my second time doing a square for friends around the world, Cal, and I just want to send a huge shout out to the organizers. They take on this enormous task, and I can only imagine how much effort goes into organizing a Cal that is sort of worldwide. So there you go. There's Calytrix. There's loads of other patterns on my website, www.creativekogi.com. You can also find me on Facebook, both on the main page where we talk about anything and everything crafty, including cooking, or you could go straight to the Creative Kogi Crochet and Knitting Patterns group. And yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, please do give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon. Take care and goodbye.